Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's Hangout. My name is Liz Murphy. I am the League's Communications Manager. And with me today, I have the League's Board Secretary, Allison Hill Graves, who has been on the board for 4.5 years and is now in her second term. So today, we're here to talk a little bit about what it's like to serve on the board directly from the source. So the League currently has 3 open member-elected positions. The nominations are due mid-month on September 15th. So if you're interested in applying, the link with more information on how to do so is listed in the description of today's Hangout. It's also bikeleague.org/election process. So we're hoping to keep today's conversation to about 30 minutes, and we'll field as many questions as possible. So if you have any questions, please feel free to type them in today's event page comment area. I'll be keeping my eye on that. So anything you have related to board service, qualifications, and what it's like, Allison is here to answer those for you. So to start, Allison, could you talk a little bit about your own background and what drew you to serve on the League's board?
Sure, thanks. Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining us, and thanks, Liz, for organizing this. I think it's a great idea. As Liz said, I've been on the board. It's going on I'm in the middle of my second term. I was also a member elected, a board member. And I was interested in the League. I had gone to the National Bike Summit a few times, and I had been a part of an organization called the Community Cycling Center in Portland, Oregon. And we're a community bike shop and more of a grassroots organization. And I felt a little bit like the organization that I represented or that I was a part of, it seemed like we were underrepresented in the League membership, and our interests I felt were an important part of the movement, but didn't seem to be a part of the discussion. So when I became the executive director of the Community Cycling Center, I applied to be considered by members as a board member, and I was really excited to have been elected. And I have found that my time on the board has been really productive. I think that I joined when the League board was going through a really big shift as an organization. It had been a lot of older men who had been board members, and their service was great. And at the time, Amanda Eichstadt was the president, and there was a lot of emphasis on shifting the organization into the future. Hi, John. Hey. And so for me, it's been exciting to see the League kind of taking important steps toward the future and becoming a more inclusive movement involving community bike shops and other grassroots kinds of organizations, and broadening the definition of advocacy to include groups like the Community Cycling Center. Now I'm with a different organization. I'm with Cycle Oregon, which is an event and more of an economic development organization using the bicycle. So while I continue to be in I say advocacy. I feel like it's a slightly different definition of advocacy, but I think that we're all needed to build a strong and powerful movement altogether.
Great, thanks, Allison. And we're joined right now by John Simitowski, the board's chair. So John, I just asked Allison a little bit about if you want to share your background and what drew you to serve on the League's board.
Well, I've been a lifelong bicyclist. I think just checking you can hear me because I had okay, great.
Gotcha.
Something popped up about my microphone. I'm a lifelong bicyclist. I think some of my fondest memories growing up are riding a bike. I can distinctly remember as a kid we would often hang out in the Connecticut shoreline. I'm originally from Connecticut, by the way. And my brothers and I would ride our bikes up to Route 1 in whatever town we happen to be in, Westbrook, Clinton, or whatever. And we would say right or left where our excursion was taking us that day, and we would then go ride all over the place. Route 1 is definitely more traffic these days than when I was growing up, but I'm not sure I'd quite want to ride some stretches of it these days. But then growing up with bicycling all the time, then I accidentally found my way into a charity ride way back in '91. Then ended up working for that organization, the National Multiple Sclerosis Society, in 2002. And while I was at the MS Society, I wanted to teach the folks who were riding my tours a lot more about how to ride a bike safely. So I became a league cycling instructor at that point. And once you start to show your interest in bike stuff, then other advocates latch onto you and pull you into into their advocacy circles. So I joined the board of Mass Bike, the Massachusetts Bicycle Coalition, and then started taking interest in the Leagues board as well, and found my way onto the Leagues board now 6 years ago. Looking forward to being elected to my third term on the board. Hint, hint, vote for me. You know, and wanting all the while to make the organization stronger, to develop the resources of the organization. We have a fantastic staff, as Liz is testament to that, and we want to continue to be able to deliver the programs and expand our programs to reach more and more people, not just our dues-paying members, but we want to share this joy of bicycling with everybody throughout the U.S. So that's, you know, where we're headed as an organization, and I think our new strategic plan is really awesome. That we're really opened up the doors to reaching out to more people who want to use bicycles for whatever they want to use them for.
Great. Thanks, John. Thanks for joining us. We had a couple of questions on the event page about actually joining the Hangout. It's just going to be the three of us on the video Hangout, but you can hit play on the top of the event page there and watch this live. And we just ask that you type in your questions into that comment area on the event page. So apologies for any confusion on that front. So moving forward, I had a question for you both. Can you talk a little bit about sort of demystifying the League board, what it's like to, maybe not day to day, but week to week or month to month? Can you talk a little bit about the duties of serving on the League board?
Yeah, I think like any, sorry, Alison, I'll take this one first. Serving on any nonprofit board comes with the overriding responsibility to steward the organization, to assure that to take a look over the finances, to make sure the strategic plan is in place and being followed, and to then help the organization achieve its mission through whatever means are available to each of us as board members. And then from a more of a day-to-day sense, I think we've got, we do have periodic meetings. We also are really moving ourselves more in the direction of committees and task forces to divide the work of the board into segments such that we don't have to have all 15 board members engaged at every single waking moment of every day. And in following that structure and strengthening that structure such that we can accomplish all the things we need to for the League.
Yeah, and I would add that the board role is unique in that our role really is a much more long-term role. We're thinking about the future of the organization, and we need to think about that future based on the reality of the day. So that's where the staff wisdom comes in, and having good relationships with staff and channels for communication through the executive director that helps to inform our thinking so that we're all aligned together in defining what our future is. And John referenced the strategic plan, and that's been a significant amount of our effort in the last couple of years is defining a strategic plan that sets forth a vision and goals for the organization for the next set of years. You know, there's varying degrees of kind of, you know, how long can you set a strategic plan for, but we try to be bold and cast a vision that we think is appropriate for the organization. And then, as John referenced, you know, we each, I think almost every board member is a part of a committee or a task force or is doing something in between board meetings. We have 2 in-person board meetings every year, one at the National Bike Summit and another in the fall where we'll travel to a different city where typically one of the board members resides just to see that place and get a sense for what's happening in different parts of the country. And so with those 2 meetings in person and then monthly board meetings, we'll complement those with different committees, whether it's the Finance Committee or Governance Committee or the Equity Task Force or the Education Committee. There's a lot of work to do, and our role is to, again, define what the strategies are for those different areas of the organization. And also, a key responsibility for the board is ensuring that the organization is well resourced, and so that means understanding how the business of the organization works and making sure that we have the right income streams, which is hard work. This is a nonprofit organization with big dreams, and so finding those resources is always a challenge. We each contribute to the organization. 100% board giving is critical in nonprofits, mostly to demonstrate that we're committing financially. That's important for funders, that's important for other donors. The level of that varies for each of us. It's whatever's meaningful for each of us as board members. And so you'll see a range for the total contributions. And then day to day, it's really about being an ambassador. We're part of this organization. We want it to be successful. We believe in the mission. So, every day I follow Facebook or Twitter, check the website, and try to stay in touch and informed about the organization so that when people ask me questions or when I see opportunities to give people information about the League, I'm up to date and can play that role effectively.
Wonderful. So there are about 8 qualifications that the League sets out for board membership or being a director. And that includes commitment to cycling, service experience as a leader in a nonprofit or business. It also includes an ability and willingness to bring substantial resources to the League. And over time, we've received questions about what exactly that means for the League. People from varying backgrounds and abilities to bring substantial resources. So could you, both of you or one of you, sort of talk about what that means for the League board?
I'll start because I was just referencing that a little bit. As I mentioned, 100% board giving is essential. That's something that grantors and other donors looked for. So all of us need to do something, but that'll vary. We don't have a set amount that each of us must deliver, and some of us deliver a significant amount, and some of us deliver what's meaningful for us. So there's a pretty wide range. I think that the primary goal is 100% giving. The secondary goal is that we're helping to expand the League's success. In some ways, that is directly financially. But it also can mean relationships with other funders, it can mean relationships with other networks, and so I think we define it a little bit more broadly, and because we recognize that having a certain and only having a certain financial requirement is kind of lets some people in and excludes other people. So there's some flexibility, but it does mean that all of us contribute in some way.
I think with anyone who serves on any board, he obviously has lots of interests that they want to give to, whether they're alma mater, their church, whatever the organization they give to. I happen to work for a large nonprofit organization in the Boston area. I give to it as an employee. So I've got a lot of draws on, and I give to my state bike advocacy organization, and then I give to my national bike advocacy organization in the League, and so there's a variety of interests that someone can give to and does give to. When you serve on a board, that organization should be one of your top gifts. So if you're giving a substantial gift to your alma mater, you don't serve on their board, well, if you want to look at that amount, if anyone's looking to monetize this, your gift to the League should be your largest gift. So if you serve on an organization's board, you should be a leader in giving for that organization. But when people say, what does a board member bring to an organization, there's the answer is often the 3 W's, to which I add the 4th W. That's work, wealth, wisdom, and then the 4th is wallop. And if you look at wealth, obviously that's your financial resources. If you're so happily endowed with those resources, great. Not all of us are. but the wallop part is even more exciting, has perhaps more potential. If someone is a part of another organization, for example, I mean, look at Allison with Cycle Oregon. As the executive director of Cycle Oregon, she certainly has the ability to influence all the people who participate in Cycle Oregon events. So when they see that she's a part of the league, they might become members. They might give. So you have to then, it then all comes down to how do you count this, and so it's that wallop is really that sphere of influence that each board member brings. So if there's, when we look at the qualifications for board members and what people bring to the table, it's those kinds of things as well. That what is the potential of someone? So those kinds of things are factors.
Great. And I'll just remind people that if you have any questions for Allison and John, feel free to type those into the event page comment area. So that brings me to another question I have for you both, and I'm wondering, what are some of the unique challenges that you face as a league board member?
Unique challenges.
If there are any challenges, maybe it's the best thing.
It's just easy all the time. Well, I think that one of the challenges is just not finding enough time in the day to ride bicycles. When sometimes when we're, we had a board meeting. One of our board members, Corinne, was kind enough to host a board meeting in October last year at her home in Park City, Utah. Unfortunately, our schedule is so packed, I didn't get time to ride a bike while I was in Park City, so I think that is one of the unique challenges. But to really think about and answer that question, it's always, in some ways we wonder, are we qualified to serve on this board as well? And wanting to make the time to be able to do all the things that our membership and donors to our organization expect of us. And I think time is a consideration. As chair of the board, that means extra time because I have additional conversations with Andy regularly. But in terms of other challenges, I think the fortunate thing is we have a great board. So when we do get together and we do have committee calls or full board calls, there's a lot of interesting thought that goes on, and then a lot of sidebar conversations. And Allison, I recall lots of conversations you and I have had after a meeting has ended about things that either one or both of us said during a meeting. And so I don't really think there's a lot of challenges. I think the challenge of joining any board is figuring out the dynamic of the board and who's who and who has what ideas. But I think we've done a really good job with the governance committee and the nominating committee over the past several years of getting a real high quality board. So in some ways, it's quite a bit like a think tank. Some of those sessions that we did in Park City were pretty heady when we were talking about some of the innovation things that Darren and Bill Nesper were all over in that meeting. So I don't really think there's a lot of unique challenges. I think there's a lot of great opportunities, and I think the challenge there is then having the wisdom to say, okay, what can we really accomplish, and instead of trying to create too broad an agenda, to really have a focused agenda and be able to devote the resources and the time to make it happen.
Yeah, I think that's an accurate description. I think that time is probably one of our biggest challenges individually, and it's because we're all, our lives are full, and being a board member requires time. It requires reading reports. It requires understanding financials. I'm not the financially minded expert on the board, so it requires extra time for me to understand that part of the organization. And so it's studying time and communication time that John was referencing, and the board's challenge in general with most organizations is that your role is sometimes it's clearly defined and sometimes it's not. And I think part of what can be challenging is taking the time and making the time to be helpful, and helpful in a way that is supportive of staff, and it honors the mission. And then the last thing is, like John said, just setting an agenda that can work within the amount of time that we have and the resources that we have. So we all have big hopes and dreams, and how do we right-size it? So the fundamental challenge there is that we're constantly dealing with organizational change, and so that requires different kinds of expertise. It requires knowledge of how organizations flow in this day and age, and what the challenges are, so that we can be useful to staff and to and to honor the mission in a way that advances our common interests in fulfilling our dreams in ways that are realistic and visionary. So it's balancing those pieces all together.
Gotcha. And so, sort of on the flip side, I'm wondering if both of you have a proudest moment with your time on the board. John serving 6 years now, and Allison almost 5. I'm curious, what's been a favorite moment for you?
I think in February of this year, when I read the first draft of what has now become our strategic framework leading to the strategic plan, the language in there, it literally gave me goosebumps when I read it. And it was because of all the work that we'd done in setting up the process of strategic planning that early in those, it was about this time last year that we actually began this plan in earnest to find the right consultant to work with us and to kind of define the process. And just hearing those words, reading those words that were in the document, it just made me feel great that we were on the right track to having a fantastic plan. We've had other iterations of strategic plans in my 6 years on the board. Some of those were quite unrealistic. There were numbers in there for growth that just then didn't have any detail behind them, any way to accomplish those goals. And when I read, I think the actual words that really got me excited were, for 130 years, the bicycle has been an end unto itself, but we now realize it is a means to many ends. So to reposition the league as the solver of other organizations' problems, such as an organization that perhaps deals with obesity, or an organization that deals with workforce issues, that the bicycle is a solution to those. And if we as the league can position ourselves to help other organizations solve their problems, we're going to get more Americans to use bicycles in many different ways.
That was a good one. The strategic plan was a major accomplishment. So since John said that, I'll tell you another one, which is, so one of my interests is advancing the bicycle movement's inclusion of women and people of color and people of different levels of income in the movement. And so when we formed the Equity Initiative and the Equity Task Force and the Equity Advisory Council, and secured a grant from the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation to help support the work, that was a major accomplishment and an incredible vote of confidence that this is important work, it's relevant work, it's hard work, but we're on the right path. And so there have been a few, and that's definitely my big highlight.
Great. And so looking forward now, with the nominations being open until September 15th, we have a few more days for people to apply. I'm wondering what you two think is sort of what's needed on the board, what sort of characteristics or backgrounds or experiences are especially suited or would fill a need on the board currently.
I'll take a stab at that. I think it's the number one need all the time is passionate people who are have broad experience relevant to the League's goals. So, you know, that's a pretty broad swath of skills and experiences, but you know, organizational experience or business experience where you understand the challenges that can face an organization day to day, and be able to translate that on at a strategic level is really critical. And there are a lot of ways to go about that. And so there's the skill piece, and then there's really bringing diverse perspectives to the table, but being able to navigate them and negotiate them in ways that are productive with the group. It's this group comes from all parts of the country and has all kinds of different backgrounds, but we work really well together in terms of being able to tackle some really challenging ideas and challenging topics and challenging issues. And so being able to bring your own personal views, but to be able to do that in a way that can advance the organization and help us be stronger at the end. Those are some, I think, key pieces that are always needed.
You know, I think it's that ability to discern what interests you personally from what then ultimately helps the organization achieve its mission. The organization always has to come first, and any personal desires need to come second. In terms of what's really needed, what's always needed on a board is if we had some more people who understood finance a little bit more, that could give Eric Swanson, our treasurer, a little more help on the finance committee. It's always one of the tougher committees to get people to join. You don't need to be a CPA. You just need to have an interest and be able to ask some questions. I mean, numbers tell a story that you can discern. Certainly, you know, as the League offers more programs and wants to expand the reach of those programs, we need the resources behind them. So anyone who's got development or fundraising background, always a big need on a board. We do have several folks on the board who do have fundraising background, and we have an awesome development director on the staff in the person of Lily. That we need to, you know, board members can and should be involved in the solicitation and it's in the solicitation of gifts. So if they're, or first of all, the identification of potential donors, the solicitation of those gifts, if they're so inclined to do it. It's not a requirement that every board member does that, but also in the stewardship of those donors. That you know, where our donors make a big part of what we do and make things possible. Gail and Jim Spann just made the largest gift ever to the League with a $250,000 commitment. That kind of commitment is, we want to see more of that, of gifts of that size, or certainly gifts of any size. And we really need to build the culture of giving within the organization. You know, I work for a large cancer care hospital and research center in Boston. And you know, we do very well on fundraising because we have a mission that's pretty easy to understand. We cure cancer. That's well, when it comes to bicycling organizations, I often see difficulty for organizations to really express what they do and to then get people to latch onto that mission of saying, yes, I want to use the dollars I have to help that organization achieve its mission. So we need to build that culture more throughout the organization. That membership dues are certainly a huge part of our budget, but we need that additional giving to really be able to build these programs, to be able to achieve our mission to lead the bicycling movement in the country. And I think that's, you know, the new statement in our mission statement is that the League of American Bicyclists will lead the bicycling movement. That was a pretty bold statement, and we stopped ourselves a couple of times to say, can we really say that? Are we going too far with that statement? But we all came around, all looked around the table at each other and said, yeah, we're here to do that. That's what we want to do with this organization, is lead the bicycling movement across this country. And it's that perspective of leadership within a movement that demands that we always have that as our focus and not any particular personal agendas. Obviously, I have an interest in bicycling education, but I'm not going to push that over other things that are more, that it may at different times be more important to the league. So it's about balance as well, of knowing where the organization is going and what the organization needs to achieve.
Great. Well, we've just about hit our 30-minute mark, so I'm wondering if either of you have anything else you'd like to add on this.
I just would encourage anybody who's interested to go ahead and apply. There are qualifications, but you know, your application is always considered against the other people who apply. And I think that the more people who throw their hat in the ring, the better discussion we can have about what does the organization need. And you know, I've applied for boards, and some have said yes, and some have said no. And it never feels good for people to say, yeah, maybe not right now. But there are lots of ways to get involved with the league, and so I hope that each of you who are here today will take seriously this opportunity to help the organization shift to its next gear. And if you think that maybe starting at the board level is not the right step for you right now, there are ways for you to get involved with other committees or task forces as well. So if that's something that you're interested in discussing, then we'd like to have that conversation with you too. So give it a shot. We encourage you.
I would say that in your responses to any of the questions or in any of the materials that you send in, be thoughtful in your responses. We do read every single word of that and have conversations with each other. I'm prohibited by law from being involved in the process for nomination this year, since I am up for re-election. But in the past years, when I have served on the nominating committee, we really put a lot of thought into it. Spent a lot of time really evaluating what we read. We then had conversations with each of our of the candidates that I'm not sure if all that we or it might have been after an initial cut, we had those conversations. But you know, and consider that if not the board, how else can you be involved in the league? So have an eye towards that, because that's something we really want to encourage. You know, if we're going to be the leaders of a bicycling movement, we need all kinds of volunteers to help us lead this. It's not just 15 people on the board that are going to lead this organization to great things. It's every single member, every single donor, every single person who gets on a bike is going to help lead this bicycling movement. So consider that there's many ways to be involved, even if we don't have a list of those on our website presently. So, you know, just think about that, of how else can you help the league and help the movement.
Great. Well, I just wanted to say thank you to both John and Allison for joining us today. It's been helpful for me, even as a staff member, to hear more about your thoughts on board service. And just a reminder that the nominating window closes on September 15th, so about 10 more days to do so. All the information on how to do so is at bikeleague.org/election process. If you have any questions related to that, you can email me at liz@bikeleague.org. But everything should be listed there. So thank you again to our board members here, and have a good day.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks, Liz. Bye, John. Nice to see you.
Good to see you. Thanks, Liz.